This week I'm speaking to Siobhan, who's a multi-award-winning belly dancer and is the founder of Greenstone Bellydance. Her love of music is equaled only by her love of movement, making belly dance her perfect match. Siobhan takes a particular interest in the health, strength, and performance of dancers, as she's not only a professional belly dancer, but also an exercise scientist. She conducted the first ever peer-reviewed scientific research concerning injury incidents in belly dancers and has a decade of experience working with athletes and dancers across the globe, helping them to recover from injury and improve their performance. Hope you enjoyed this interview and thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome to Advance Your Belly Dance, a weekly podcast all about the business of belly dance. I'm excited to have another awesome dancer this week. Welcome, Siobhan. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So, just quickly, I read your intro at the top of this episode, but just to say it in your own words, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Siobhan. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I'm based in the Netherlands at the moment. And I run two businesses, and one of them is Greenstone Bellydance. So I have my dance school, and then I also run a business where I specialize in athletic performance and rehab. And yeah, I've kind of been doing both of these things together non-stop. So they feed into each other sometimes as well. So I also write personalized strength and conditioning programs for dancers as well. So yeah, that's what I do.
I was going to ask, I didn't know you had two separate businesses, because for me, everything that I found when I did my research about you online is everything is like in one, and I love the combination.
Yeah.
It fits in really well. And you're also from one of my favorite countries, New Zealand. I've never been, but I adore your prime minister. So if New Zealand will have me, will come. That is my plan B if Germany does not work out.
I have, definitely over the pandemic, I have missed home a lot more when I see how well it's been handled. I just called a friend there last night. They're living totally normal lives, because there's no COVID.
Yeah. Must be nice. But to get back to you, bud. Yes. And so you are actually originally an exercise scientist and, as you mentioned, a strength and conditioning coach. How did you find yourself in that field, and how did you transition then to become a belly dancer?
Yeah, so again, it's kind of this thing where there wasn't really ever a transition because I've always done both. But, well, kind of in the beginning there was. So I started out as a youth athlete, and I was particularly in endurance sport. I was doing a crazy sport called adventure racing, which is kind of like triathlon, but it's off-road and you navigate yourself. So lots of mountain running, mountain biking, kayaking. But the running was my forte and my favorite part. And so I was about 16 at the time, and I ended up really injured from overtraining, because at the time I was young, I didn't know anything about principles of exercise science or programming. I just trained. And so when that happened, I remember very strongly feeling that I never wanted to be injured again in my life. And I went off and I started alongside high school, I started a tertiary level certificate in improving sports performance. And I was really lucky to have a great sports scientist who'd worked with English Premier League football there. So he really inspired me. And then I decided to go to university. So actually, as a result of the injury, I couldn't run for a while. And that was when I ended up taking up belly dance, and I just fell in love with it. But I was going to university for exercise science anyway. And so just continued with it, in parallel, really.
And how has your work been perceived as an exercise scientist and using the strength and conditioning techniques and advice? How has that been perceived in the belly dance community? Did you get any pushback at first, or did you have people wondering, why should I do this? Why should I cross train? Or has it been welcoming?
Yeah, it's actually interesting you ask that. So the first, I did a research, my whole thesis actually for my first degree was on injury incidents and risk factors for injury in belly dancers. And when I presented that to the the New Zealand belly dance community, I did get some pushback, and I did get some pushback when I was collecting data, and this was coming from kind of, I think for some people who were subscribing to that idea of belly dance being a healing feminine art form, you know, this kind of narrative that sometimes gets pushed. And so I think for those people, it was really hard to accept that belly dance could cause injury in people. But I think also some people thought I was trying to tell people that belly dancing was harmful, and that wasn't it either. This was not, it was, everything is potentially injurious, including walking. So
Yeah,
it was more looking at what are the risk factors. So that is probably the first place I've kind of experienced pushback. But apart from that, no, I don't think so. I mean, there are some dancers I meet who come to me for programs who tell me the reason they started dancing was because they didn't like traditional forms of exercise, and now they've kind of realized they need something to support their dance. So I hear a lot of that. But often my response to that is, you know, there are so many different ways to train the same energy systems or to train the same muscle groups. You don't, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I have to run or I have to do this, but there's always an alternative. So I like to work with people to fit what they like as well. I might have gone on a tangent.
No, and it's not a tangent. You have no good. I always tell dancers, I've been harping on this for years, that it's so important to cross train, and not necessarily that you have to be doing 50 squats a day or things like that.
No.
But even if you find another dance class that you like, you never know what kind of activities or strength exercising, like building routines, that class is going to offer you, that it's going to make you strengthen your own body in a different way. So because we can get into this habit of, in belly dance, we're doing the same thing and it's routine, but if we push ourselves just even 10% to try something else in a different way, that it's really beneficial for even just how you approach some movements and your overall health. So I figured there would be some potential pushback from people that believe belly dance is the healing of the dance world. But,
and I've been asked to speak in some places about this particularly as well, actually, because there is kind of a lot of the lay literature out there that talks about how amazing this dance form is for a lot of different things. But sometimes there's just not the research there, and it's not necessarily that these people are wrong, it's that we just don't know yet. But I would just say, yes, I would definitely agree that cross training and other styles of dance forms can be really helpful, especially I think because different dance forms train different or highlight different aspects of technique. And so that can really enrich our belly dance. But I would say that when it comes to actual strength training, it does need to be targeted strength training to build strength, rather than, like, dance really falls into the aerobic exercise category. And while that's obviously important as well, and I agree that training in different dance styles puts us through different movement patterns, which is also super helpful for our bodies. We do know that after age 30, we start losing muscle mass, and especially as women, who we're much more likely to end up with things like osteoporosis. We need to do weight-bearing exercise, and we need to do strengthening exercise for our muscles.
For sure. And what's the number one mistake you see dancers make when it comes to approaching then cross training and strength training? Is there a common injury that results of people pushing themselves too quickly, too fast, too much at once? Or what is the most common mistake then that you see when you work with dancers when they try this?
And do you mean specifically with cross training or with dance?
I would, well, both. Yeah. If they're just dancing, and then if they're like, okay, I need to do more, and then they try something else.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think, you know, for both sides, actually, and this isn't just dancers, this is with all the athletes I work with and rehab clients as well. It's a loading issue. It's a progression issue. So this is what I see. Often dancers who come to me and tell me that they've had an injury in belly dance, it's been at an intensive belly dance weekend. So it's a spike in load. So we know that the body can adapt really well to exercise. It's a stress really, and it adapts well to the stress, but you have to, it's a thing called progressive overload. We have to build up over time, and that helps our body learn, I need to get stronger to be able to handle this stress. But if we are, for example, doing one dance class per week, which is an hour long, and then maybe practicing a few times per week, and then all of a sudden we go and dance for 8 hours a day for 3 days at a festival, then that is serious overload for a lot of the musculoskeletal system. And then that is often where we see injury happen, because it hasn't been that progressive overload that actually results in increased strength. It's just a sudden amount of training that it results in fatigue, and then that's when the muscles get tired. I don't know, for anyone who's listening, if they've done a lot of squats in the gym and the next day they're walking and their knee kind of, like, it's like you can't walk properly, your knee kind of falls because you're so tired. In a way, that's the same thing that can happen when you're overtraining. Your body just doesn't have the energy and the strength in that moment to support you. So that's when you're more susceptible to injury. And this is also when we see a lot of these stress injuries come up, like shin splints, often like plantar fasciitis, things like that, where people have just they've increased their load quickly, and then they've kept going with it without giving themselves a break. So it's usually loading issues that I see a problem with.
And how much then would you recommend, let's say, per day for dancers to train?
Okay, that totally depends on where the dancer is right now with their training. So we usually say, we look at things usually as a weekly load, so how much you're training in a standard week. And we usually say don't increase by more than 5 to 10% each week. So if at the moment you're not doing anything, you do want to start really low and progress slow. This is kind of my slogan when people are starting out: start low, progress slow. And so for some people who come to me, especially right now with the pandemic, I have a lot of people coming to me for personalized programs who are saying, I haven't done anything for 6 months. I've been working from home, I've been sedentary, I've had no reason to dance, and so some people, I'm starting off with just 10 minutes a day of 10 minutes a day of dance, the next day 10 minutes of strength, something like that, 10 minutes of cardio. But I mean, we have guidelines for what is recommended for health, and that's minimum 30 minutes a day of moderate exercise. And it is important to know that is also a minimum for every day, because really our bodies are made to move. Our bodies are not made to stay in the same position for too long. And this is where I see a lot of the pain come from people working who are sitting in desk jobs all day and not changing position. But I also like to emphasize for people, because I know our lives have just gotten busier and busier over the last, I don't know how long. I like to emphasize as well that something is always better than nothing. I have some clients who come to me and train with me just one-on-one for 60 minutes a week, and that's all they do. And I still see strength gains for them, So you want to be realistic, but I do subscribe to the idea that more often is better than a longer duration if possible. Does that make sense?
So a little bit every day versus one go a week.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Especially if you're someone who is experiencing pain in your body, you're usually going to find that more frequent exercise makes you feel better. I mean, where possible, I would like to see for strength, dancers doing specific strength training at least 2 times a week. Yeah, that would be where I would start.
So what's the most, without knowing a specific person's pain points basically, but what would you then say, okay, in general, this is the type of strength exercise I think most dancers could benefit from
Sure.
2 or 3 times a week? What would that be?
So in general, just for health as well and longevity, we say 8 to 10 different exercises, all the major muscle groups. And to be honest, most of these major muscle groups hit the kind of most important areas for belly dancers. For belly dancers, your quads are really important, your front thigh muscles, because we spend a lot of time with bent knees. And so the quads work really hard to stop us from falling, essentially. So it's quite a quad dominant dance. But, and I've spoken about this on other podcasts too, I often see, because of that, that belly dancers can have weak hamstrings. Because if they're not doing specific hamstring training, then we're kind of overworking the quads. So to prevent any muscle imbalance related injuries, it's really important that we strengthen the hamstrings. So that's the rear thigh as well. And then calves, strengthening your calves are super important because of all the time we spend in releve, and also just for protecting the ankle. Because in general, we want to strengthen the muscles that cross a joint if we want to protect the joints. So the calves are really important around the ankle. And then calves, hamstrings, quads are really great for the knees. And a lot of people, not just belly dancers, but a lot of people see knee issues arise as they get older if they're not strengthening. And then I am a big fan of triceps and deltoids. So this is shoulder and back of the arm for dancers for arm work. If you do a really big intensive for belly dance, those are probably the muscles that you're going to feel get tired when you have to keep your arms up all day. So for things like shoulders and triceps, it's easy to do things like push-ups, or if you have weights at home, things like a shoulder press. Quads, as I was talking about earlier, you can do lunges and squats. For people with knee injuries, there are always alternatives as well. Calves, you can do calf raises. Hamstrings, things like your bridge, kind of like what you do in yoga. Yeah, those are probably good starting points, I would say.
And most of these you don't even need weights. So anyone that's listening is like, oh, I don't have a gym.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of stuff can be done with body weight. I do a full challenge with people at home with body weight, specifically for belly dancers, actually. But the thing you do have to be careful with body weight exercises is that you're still strengthening both sides of the body, because often what I see with some clients who do mainly body weight work is that they end up with some muscle imbalances, because it's always easier to do an upper body push with a push-up. It's always easier to do squats and lunges on the lower body than it is to work the hamstrings. So just making sure that if you are doing body weight exercises, you're still selecting things that leave your body balanced. So if you're working one side of the body, we want to work the other.
And what advice then do you have for dancers who want to start strength training and doing these exercises, but they don't know where to start or how to start building the habit? What would you say then to start with this in order to build this?
So there are a couple of things. When it comes to building a habit, you need to really remind yourself in the beginning. So I often tell dancers to have something like post-it notes around the house, or to leave, if there's someone who wants to run, they'd leave their running shoes out or something like that, to have a visual reminder. But what can also be helpful is tacking it onto an already existing habit. So if you already have a habit of doing your dance training, for example, 30 minutes after work every night, then you could either tack your strength work on immediately before your dance practice or immediately after. It's a good idea to link things to pre-existing habits in your schedule. And I quite like doing strength training before a dance session, just because I also use it as a way to get me a little bit warmer. But you've got to see what works for you as well.
Are you ready for I'm going to just call this the non-lightning round because I have no better name for this. You have as much time as you want to answer the
Okay,
questions.
good.
This is why it's the non-lightning round.
Good. Fabulous.
Yes. So fill in the blank or finish the sentence.
Okay.
The biggest struggle I face in belly dance is, and the best way I'm overcoming that struggle is. So the biggest
Oh,
struggle and how you're overcoming it.
okay. The biggest struggle I face in belly dance is feeling like I won't. Okay, no, is procrastinating on starting certain projects, especially choreographies that I really want to do a good job of. But the good thing is, I've realized that it's because I want to do a good job on it. And there's this little voice inside that says, maybe you won't do it well enough. And I've started countering that voice with, you don't know until you try. And then the second I get up and I actually start doing the work, I feel better. So actually, one of the ways I conquer this is every Monday I dance no matter what, because I don't usually dance on the weekends unless I'm teaching or hosting an event. And if I get myself started on a Monday and I start the project again and I remind myself, oh yeah, actually I'm enjoying this and I'm doing well, that keeps me on a roll.
I think that has to do with anyone that's a bit of a perfectionist, right? You want to have it perfect and you're like, you're not sure if you can get to that perfection. So why even start? But that's such a dangerous place to be in mentally
Definitely.
because then you never start anything.
Yes.
Yeah. My favorite belly dance memory is.
Okay. I think I have a lot. But I think the first thing that came to mind is, yeah, my favorite belly dance memory is being at Aziza of Montreal's Dream Camp. I think my favorite memory is sitting out either on the dock. They have this dock that looks over Lac Raymond in Val-Morin in Quebec. It's this lake. And I will often just go there. I make big life decisions when I'm at Dream Camp. It's really great because I get to just dance all day and then also have time for myself and then also connect with dancers in the evening. And I also have really nice memories of doing zill hikes there. So going hiking and playing finger cymbals. Yeah, I don't know if I can pick a specific memory, but Dream Camp is my happy place.
You're not the first person to say that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I've heard from so many dancers. They love Dream Camp. It's on my list.
I can't rave
places
about
to
it
go.
enough.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Aziza, if you're listening, people love your Dream Camp. The one thing I'd love to offer the belly dance community is.
Oh, wow. You know, I think something that I've been getting more and more interested in is how to support other dancers, both within my own community and in the wider community. Because I think sometimes there can be this competitive mindset amongst, like, between other dancers. And I feel that we all do so much better when we support each other. And I don't know, I've just had some thoughts bubbling away in the back of my mind about how can we support each other. So this is not a very clear answer, but I've been thinking about, yeah, how can I nurture not only students, but how can I support my peers in the community as well?
I think when we start thinking of each other as coworkers and colleagues,
Yes.
I think that changes the mindset rather
Definitely.
than this is my competition, because no one is exactly like you. And as a teacher, if you're not sending people to other workshops, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, even in my own workshop this past weekend, I told people to go check out Delicious Pauses by Rosa Nuri.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rosa. Hey. And it's little things like that. I don't feel I'm in competition with any dancer because I know I'm different in my own experiences, and this person's different, and there's something to learn from everyone.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason to feel like you have to hold on so tightly to what you've learned and your knowledge, and you can't share that with anyone unless it gets to this point or that point, or I don't know. I just feel like when I first started dance, that was the mentality around. It was very competitive. It was a very competitive mindset of, well, this person has this and I'm not going to say this to their students. And it's just like, if your students are there for you and they love and they dig what you're doing, no one else is going to make them change them. It's only going to support the community to shout out other dancers that you admire, because they're going to think, wow, this person that I love is loving this other dancer's work, then I'm going to go check them out.
Yes.
So I think it only benefits us.
I think I was lucky in that I was never really in a super competitive community. I've been in belly dance communities that have been really driven, but really supportive of each other. But every now and then I feel that there's, I think it's like this in every community. There's like a pocket of, or maybe a school that kind of has that thought more. But yeah, in general, I've been thinking about this, and especially because something I think about is how, oh gosh, I can't even remember who wrote this. Someone wrote, maybe it was Abigail Keys. I feel like she writes a blog that I read from time to time. Not sure if it was her. I'll have to look it up. Someone wrote a blog about how belly dance schools, we or festivals, we always bring in the really big names, and then are we supporting our local community? And so that's something I've been thinking about. What can I create that ensures that the local community earns what they should be earning as well?
Preach this topic. I've ranted and raved about this before, where when it comes to who do you want to support, it's mind-boggling to me that we as dancers and event hosts and teachers, we look around, well, I don't know how to support these people. And it's like, we are the ones that influence the standard. There's no outside influence necessarily for this. Like, we're very niche. So who we put on stage and who we put on festivals and promos, and that's who gets the job. So that's, it's your job to look at, how can I promote these people that perhaps are lesser known, but I really like them as a person, as a teacher, and they're really good. And it's just mind-boggling to me that we've gone decades of promoting big names only, and then we look around and we're upset by what we've created. And we've all taken part in this, myself, yourself, we've all been a part of this. And it's just mind-boggling to me that we kind of were like, well, we don't know how we got here. And it's like, well, we do know how we got here, and we all played some part in it, and it's time to change things. So yeah, definitely support your local dancers, and not just the big, not saying that the big names aren't worth, depending on who it is, not saying that they're not worth taking workshops with, of course, but
no, for sure, there's so many amazing dancers that I continue to travel to learn with and want to support as well. But it's I think I'm also thinking of more grassroots things, like when I lived in Montreal, there was this awesome, and they've just restarted it again. So for anyone listening who's in Montreal or near Montreal, you have to check this out. Although I know things are different now with COVID. It was this thing called Cabaret à la Mar, and it was this bi-weekly show in a restaurant where two dancers would perform. So one would do the first set and one would do the second, and it changed every second week. And it gave all of these dancers who didn't have regular restaurant gigs a chance to perform and be seen by not only the local community who might want to take classes with them, but also by obviously the restaurant owners who hired dancers on other nights as well, and they got paid really well. So I don't know, I just think of stuff like this. What can I do that actually gives income and fuels dancers?
Yeah, love it. Siobhan, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
People can find me on www.greenstonebellydance.com, because I run Greenstone Bellydance. I'm also at Greenstone Bellydance on Instagram. And then I'm also on Twitter and Facebook with variations of Greenstone Bellydance. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone that was listening. Go check her out. And until next time.